and everyone that's joining us on Zoom today. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Adrian Conway, and I am one of the chapter group co-leads for Ventura County Citizens Climate Lobby. Myself and Faith Grant, the other co-lead, would like to welcome everyone here today. We'd also like to thank our partner host, Chalice, for the facilities for today's event and for providing valuable tech support that is allowing for off-site viewing and recording of presentations. Links will be provided to watch these recordings after the event. A special thank you and shout out to our sponsors, our partners, and donors. Without your support, this free community event of this magnitude would not be possible. I'd also like to say a special thank you to our volunteer steering committee that's been working behind the scenes planning and designing this day for the past 6 months. We'd like to personally thank Francis Lee, Richard Elsley, Terry Wallace, Joanne Cohen, Katie Rojas, Kathleen Wheeler, and Wayne Morgan. So before we get started, I'd just like to share a brief word or two about Ventura County CCL in the words of Tom Signer, one of our esteemed former group leaders. CCL is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, worldwide organization. We have a booth set up right out front. Please come by to ask us more questions about the work that we do in the community. A brief discussion about the origin of this event. So our volunteers, we're about 800 strong in Ventura County. We saw a need for more information to be shared on the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA. Where do you even start? We understand that this is a huge piece of legislation with many different components, and the economic benefits of transitioning to clean energy solutions for your home or business just might be missed. We don't want that. We want everyone who's considering solar panels to understand the process. We want everyone who's thinking about buying an EV vehicle to know about the rebates that are available. And we want everyone who is wondering, what exactly is an induction cooktop? We want them to have that information at the top of the mind and to know where they can go for resources. So our goal today is that you get to not only hear about this information from our knowledgeable presenters, but that you have a chance to go and talk with our exhibitors and ask questions. Test drive an EV bike. Talk with EV vehicle owners, not only about their cars, but about their experiences with the rebate process. Visit with the representatives from the IBEW Local 952 and CFROG to find out about how they are setting up Ventura County youth for success by offering scholarships and training programs for green jobs. There's 20 booths outside and in the fellowship hall right across the way with exhibitors that are happy to share their knowledge and their expertise with you. And some of them are giving away free swag and have opportunity drawings as well. So don't forget to stop by all throughout the day. So without further ado, I'd also like to turn this program over to our MC for today, the person that founded our CCL chapter, Dr. Richard Elsley.
Thank you, Adrian. I have been studying electricity since before I could walk. The legend in our family is that I would crawl around the house sticking things in electrical outlets to see what happened. And so I've learned a lot about electricity in the intervening years. I am pleased to be the MC for this event. I have one slide first. Could you put up my slide? The one that... Yes. Okay. Why are we focusing on electricity? Why is that a way that we're going to make our lives better? There are a bunch of reasons, which enumerated there. Electricity is cheaper. Nowadays, it's cheaper both to make it yourself using solar panels and also utilities. It's cheaper for them to make renewable energy from solar panels than by burning stuff. Electricity is more efficient. It wastes less energy. If you use a heat pump at home for your heating or your water heating, it uses only a third as much power as traditional means. It's healthier. Kids who grow up near freeways are much more likely to have respiratory problems like asthma, and it's because of the stuff that those cars are kicking out their exhaust pipe. Electric vehicles don't do that. Electricity is also safer in other ways. You can't pour a puddle of electricity on the ground and light it on fire, because electricity doesn't do that like gasoline would. And electricity pollutes less. The natural gas, quote, natural gas, that was a clever marketing term, that you cook with in your kitchen. If you don't have that hood fan on, then impurities like benzene are going around your house. And benzene is a carcinogen, so avoiding that is desirable. Also, electrification is producing good, safe, high-paying jobs. Which would you rather do? Climb on a roof installing solar panels or work in a coal mine? No brainer. And what about natural disasters? Whenever a big hurricane strikes, the power goes out. There's a village in Florida that was built specifically to be resilient against natural disasters. Their power all comes from solar panels. I think there's a bunch of them outside the edge of town. The houses are built to withstand hurricane force winds, and earlier this year, a hurricane hit. And guess what? The town was fine. Everything was working. People had their electricity. Their houses didn't get torn apart. So there were a lot of reasons to go for electricity. So we have 7 great talks here. You might say 7 electrifying talks. And so let's get right into it. First talk is by Derek Reitz from Greenstart Electrify, and his title is Where to Start. With all these possibilities, that sounds like good advice to give us. So Derek, please come up.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so my name's Derek Reitz. I'm actually originally from Newbury Park, so it's nice to be here in my hometown doing this. Let's see, I've been in the solar industry now, for, gosh, I think it's 15, 16 years. And now with whole home electrification, with heat pump technology, it's just a great time to start looking at electrifying homes completely, getting away from natural gas and natural gas pollutants. You could go to the next slide. Let's see. They changed the order on these. Let's see. So basically, what we want to know, what you guys want to know here is why would you electrify your home? What are the benefits of it? We just heard quite a bit of the details about that. Where the cost savings potential is absolutely enormous. Great, cleaner environment not only for your home, but if you're pairing it with rooftop solar, you've got a cleaner environment overall. For your community and for the world. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Here's my introduction slide. Let's see. So let's see. I've been in this industry for 17 years since Arnold Schwarzenegger started the Million Solar Roofs initiative, and started back then. I would do sales, get on the roofs. We did the company I was with at the time did every Macy's store in California. We also did like Fresno State University, some really cool projects back in the day. And been in the industry in one way or another ever since. Next slide. So now we'll dig into, again, why to electrify. Again, the savings are huge. The savings potential. I'm sorry, could you go back one slide, please? Yes, let's stick on that one till we're, yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you, I appreciate it. So there's two things. There's the savings potential comes from two sources. It comes from the efficiency of electrification, especially heat pump technology over traditional gas heating and even electric heaters. That's a huge part of it. You're just using less energy. When you're using less energy, you're paying less for energy. The other great thing with the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, we've got a lot of great rebates and incentives. California also has some great rebates and incentives to help us, spur electrification. And again, the other advantage is it is cleaner. We talked about induction cooktops instead of stovetops. You're looking to, improve your indoor air quality with that. You don't get the nitrous dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, formaldehyde can come off of gas range tops. All that stuff out of your home now, and so that's one of the major benefits, just a cleaner environment in your home. Secondly, obviously, especially when you pair it with rooftop solar, you're now lowering your carbon footprint substantially. When paired with rooftop solar and battery, you're looking at now your home is not only more efficient because it's electrified, it's also producing that electricity locally, so you're not losing power when you're distributing from some far off source like a natural gas plant or even big solar projects in the middle of the desert, right? You get a lot of line losses when you're bringing in power from other things. So distributed production is really a key to electrifying as cleanly as possible. Let's see. So if you could go to the next. Perfect. Now, what we want to talk about, what does it mean to electrify? What's encompassing electrification? You're basically looking at eliminating anything that has natural gas. You're talking about your heat pump, HVAC system, getting rid of that natural gas furnace, replacing with an electrified heat pump. Same thing can be done for the water heater. The other great thing to do is concentrate on efficiency. You can weatherize through, through insulation, through all that. Let's see. And weatherization is referring to, yeah, exactly, insulating and weather stripping your doors and windows, replacement doors and windows. If you have old single pane windows, it's great to replace those with double pane. You're gonna just get that much less intrusion of either cold or heat depending on the season. One step you can do for weatherization especially, there's home energy audits. These are great things if you don't know where to start with weatherization and you're not sure where you're losing heat and cool in your home. These are a great way to get started. A whole home energy audit will help you identify the problem areas. Be it your doors, be it your windows, be it some needed insulation, be it ventilation in the attic, on your roof. Whatever you need, an energy audit can catch that stuff and advise you on what projects you should emphasize to basically lower your energy usage through proper weatherization. Let's see. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Weatherization saves you a ton of money. You're looking at dropping your energy usage up to 20% if you're properly weatherized. Obviously it reduces your energy waste, which helps on your bills. And lower income households especially, there's programs for, and middle income, where you can save up to 35% on your bills through weatherization. And go ahead and the next slide. There's a couple of good programs out there. Here, home electrification efficiency where you can get, up to $1,600 back. 100% of the cost of a project could be covered for low-income individuals. If you want to know if you qualify for that, all the great vendors here who concentrate on this will be able to kind of guide you. My company can also guide you to see where you qualify on that. It's basically based on the region, and they say, are you 20% on the income level of the area, 20 to 80% is middle, and then the top 20% don't qualify, but that's okay. Weatherization can still save you money, and still be good for your wallet at the end of the day. The 25C, that's also a 30% tax credit for individuals weatherizing up to $1,200 a year. And this one is not income qualified, so most anyone should qualify for this. If you look at the slide, you get $150 back for an energy audit, $1,200 for insulation and air sealing, which can be a substantial 30% of the system cost, but it's capped at $1,200. $250 per door, per window, up to 2 doors. And $250 for doors, $600 for windows. So those are the potential savings for weatherization. It's not my strongest suit to talk about the weatherization. My company focuses more on the generation and the heat pumps, heat exchangers that are that technology. But the Inflation Reduction Act is just come in at the beginning of this year, just come into action for a lot of these rebates. And this is where a lot of the government programs on the federal level have for heat pump technology. Let's see. We're, basically the Inflation Reduction Act is really pushing. It's really a green bill if you look at the heart of the majority of it. And it's gives rebates qualified on how much energy you're saving. If you have an old HVAC system and you move to a new efficient heat exchanger, heat pump, you're looking at, and so if you can basically show that you're saving 35% energy or more, you're looking at a great rebate of capped at $4,000, 50% potential of full project cost. So you're looking at knocking off $4,000 off of your new heat exchanger system. And this is the IRA has really brought the economics of electrification into even with old gas appliances. So there's really no reason anymore to look at gas appliances, right? That's the fun of the IRA right now and the programs going on. Initial cost of heat pumps are a little higher than your traditional HVAC, than your traditional water heater. With these rebate programs, it makes them competitive or better. And the added bonus is that you save that money over time as you're using less energy over the life of the product. So that's the beauty of this electrification for your wallet at the end of the day. And again, low-income households are in a great spot to take advantage of those rebates being doubled up to 80% of the project cost. So you could basically come very, very little out of pocket for some massive improvements to your home. This is a great graphic. I think you saw it on the poster up front. And this really gives a visual of all the potential rebate programs. So, feel free to dig in with any of the vendors here on site, any of the booths. Everyone out there should be pretty well versed in what's available. But for solar, for battery, for main service panel upgrade, all that stuff can qualify for the 30% federal tax credit, which is not capped. It's based on project cost, and it's not income qualified as well. So pretty much everyone gets that. Some of these other programs can be up to 100% for low income. They can be 50%. Here's some great examples of basically some homes in different areas and how much of the rebates they qualified for as they electrified their homes. This is, from the two first examples are middle income, and those income levels for these different projects. The first one's talking about weatherization, where they saved $4,000 on weatherizing their home. The second one's got some electrification improvements where they saved 50% of project cost on all of that stuff with the available programs. And the last one's a low-income example where the vast majority of the project cost is paid for, which is an absolutely awesome program to take advantage of. Let's see. So with all this knowledge, what we're looking for is to spread the word about electrification, right? If you're a homeowner, talk to all these great vendors here. See if you can get set up, get some pricing together, all that stuff, so that you can understand how best to electrify. If you are unfamiliar on if your home's efficient, weather efficient, get an energy audit. Someone will come through with a thermal camera. They'll be able to spot all the problem areas of your home where you might need additional insulation. What's going on with your attic, if you need additional insulation in there, weatherization, your doors and windows, all that stuff. That energy audit, if you're not sure where to improve on your home, that can be super helpful to basically know where to start, all right? And from there, the energy audit, people, they're not trying to sell you anything. They're just doing the energy audit, and then they're going on their way and giving you the answers to things. So the other thing is companies like mine, I don't know how many other examples are, but we're actually offering whole home electrification plans where we look at your natural gas usage as well as your electric usage, and we're able to give you a comprehensive plan on what weatherization's going to do, or not weatherization, electrification is going to do for your wallet, and what electrification is going to, the upfront costs of it, the incentives you're potentially going to get, all of that stuff. And your CO2 impact, the drop of that, and your environmental impact. So, let's see. There's and again, go as a homeowner, go ahead and take advantage of all of those great programs out there, and also just be an advocate in general for electrification. And so a lot of homeowners, you're in a spot where, taking on giant project of weatherization or electrification may not be, the best. You're not in the best financial spot for that. There's plenty of programs out there and zero down options for this stuff where you can actually distribute your payments for the equipment over your savings. So, if you're zero down and you're able to garner enough savings to now cover that loan expense, you're in a great spot because you're saving money every month. And a lot of, again, the vendors here are going to be offering lots of that. There's also a lot of state programs and local programs for helping to finance some government programs as well. Let's see, if you're a renter or if you don't own, you can still be a great advocate for electrification. You can advocate with your landlord if your water heater's going, or your home's really getting cool in the winter, really hot in the summer, you need some better insulation. Advocate with your landlord. I've even had customers who put solar on their home, on a rental home. Then they were able to basically bring up the rent because the electricity is now covered and part of what the landlord's providing. So there are ways to structure it where it's a win-win both for the tenant and for the landlord. And again, just like a homeowner, you can advocate with friends and family and just spread the word about electrification because it's really the best way for a homeowner to look at making their footprint smaller and just doing a little bit of green for the planet. Let's see, and here's a bit more drill down on potential savings. And this website, write this down, get the slides afterwards. This website is Rewiring America. This will do a great job of showing you what you qualify for. You put your zip code, you put your, your income level, all of that stuff, and it'll let you know how much incentive you qualify for each, different trade or different aspect of electrification. This is an absolute great resource. This is a great place to start if you're looking to qualify for some of the low or middle income programs. It also gives some information on solar battery, all of that as well, if you see the first ones on the list. And those are fun because those are 30% non-capped, so not income qualified. When you get into the weatherization, some of the other things, some of them are income qualified. The other thing in the IRA is a lot of them are tied to American manufactured products, which is great. We're actually seeing billions invested in solar manufacturing here in the country and manufacturing for all heat pumps and stuff because some of the rebates as the IRA progresses over the years are tied to Made in America. So we're really going to see a lot more American-made products that qualify for higher rebates than non-domestic product. Let's see. Let's go one more slide. There's also the 3C REN, the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. 3C REN is a local program here in, I believe it's Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties, if I'm remembering correctly. And basically, it's a program where you get upfront rebates on equipment for electrification. It's also a great program. I believe they have a booth here today, so they're great to talk to as well. Let's see. The way they incentivize is they have a marketplace, and you get that rebate up front at time of purchase. It's not something you have to sign up for later. So that's really handy, where you don't have to write a bigger check and then I'm going to wait for my taxes or whatever. You get it right away. So that's a cool program. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this is for 3C REN. They have a booth outside. If you scan the QR code, it'll go to their website as well, and give you some great information from them. And again, they're local in the Tri-County area here. I seem to have rushed through these slides a bit because I still have some time. The other great resource is on electrification, especially for whole home or home appliances. Or we're talking stoves, range tops. Let's see, electrical appliances. You're talking about your gas dryer in your garage, all that stuff. The Switch is On is an absolutely great resource to look into. Looking at all that stuff. They talk about the rebate programs available for electric appliances, and all of that. It's also a nonprofit. A 3C REN's nonprofit. All of these different websites are either government or nonprofit stuff to help you electrify your house. Okay, there's also we talked about financing a bit. PACE is a program, property assessed clean energy program. This is an interesting program. City of Thousand Oaks participates in it. I've been in this industry a long time. I've seen PACE, and it's a great program because they don't check your credit. They will finance you if you own your home. What they do is they tie the payments for your, say you finance a new hot water heater through PACE. It's actually going to, instead of getting a monthly bill from the finance company, it's going to tie it to your property tax bill, and you'll just pay that biannually with your property tax. What I would say, one word of caution with PACE is that I found historically there's a couple of issues with it. If you don't pay now your new bigger property tax bill, that can put your home in jeopardy. So you want to be careful with that. And also sometimes the interest and fees is a little higher than than open market products. So it's, shop around with any of these products, shop around. One program isn't the silver bullet for everything. Definitely do your due diligence and look at different programs out there. So, and just regular open market financing to see, what works best for you. Everyone's in a different situation, and there's great products for everyone out there. And you want to find the one that's really helping your wallet the best, while you're helping help the environment. So, let's see. But there's also some great links to PACE and everything involved in them. So, again, my name's Derek, and I'm the CEO of Greenstart, and let's see, and Greenstart Electrify. Our booth is out there. Feel free to come talk to me, and feel free to my whole team's here today. A good amount of our team. We can answer any of your questions. Also, feel free to talk to any of the other great vendors out here. And I guess I have a little bit of time, so I'll open up to Q&A a bit if you guys have any questions. Yes, all the slides will be available. I believe the whole presentation will be available. Is that correct? Okay, great.
Audit, 1,200 for installation.
Pass that in the mic for the rest
Okay,
of the audience?
thanks. And 600 for windows, you said that was per year.
That's a great question. I believe a lot of those caps are an annual, but I would need to double check that for you. I believe that's, especially for an energy audit, that should be something you only need to get once. But I believe it's an annual cap on those. I believe, if you're doing multiple projects over multiple years, I believe you can keep realizing those savings. But I would need to double check for you without. Yeah, I don't want to say that with complete certainty.
I understand.
Until
Thank
looking
you.
into it.
I think we have a question from online.
Somebody's asking what the website is for Greenstart.
Oh, thank you for that. GreenstartElectrify.io. GreenstartElectrify.io. And actually, yeah, they made a mistake in the slide. Green Rev Energy is also a company I've been running for this past 7-8 years. And if you see on this slide on my email address, you'll see the Greenstart Electrify. That website is live, has lots of good information. The Green Rev Energy also has a lot of good information for solar and battery. But if you're looking for electrification information, yeah, the GreenstartElectrify.io is the place to go.
Okay, we have another question back here.
You've alluded to electricity being more efficient than gas, but price-wise, with electric rates rising and whole new restructuring of rates by CPUC, might people expect to find their gas bill cheaper than their electric bill for the comparable appliance?
No, that's a great point. Electric rates are rising. You guys all probably remember last winter when gas prices also spiked at a pretty high level. We glazed over the slide too fast, but I wanted to dig into a bit about the heat pump technology. It is up to 3 times more efficient as far as what you're. Yes, see the graphic on the side of this slide. Heat pumps, the way they work. I'm going to dig into that a little bit, and then I'll bring it back to that whole question. Heat pump technology, how it works. Gas, you sit there, you burn the gas, you heat up the air or the water. Old school electric heating was the same. You had a resistance coil that heated the gas or water. Heat pumps are different. And the reason they're able to gain such efficiency, because if you're heating just from electricity or just from gas, you can get to 100% efficiency, still not match what heat pumps can do. The reason is heat pumps aren't heating. They are moving heat around. And that difference is the crux of why they're able to garner such efficiency. Even on the coldest day, there's still heat in the air. They pull that heat out of the air if we're talking about either the hot water or or a furnace. It works like an HVAC, like an air conditioner. But the reason you're able to garner such efficiency is because it's pulling that that heat out of the air, even on the coldest day, that's still there, condenses it and utilizes that. And moving heat around is a lot easier and a lot more efficient than actually heating. So there's the one thing is the absolute huge efficiency gain of energy in general. Now, you're right. Electric prices are going up. They're not going down anytime soon. I think the past couple of years we've seen at least 7% interest in Southern California energy, Southern California Edison territory. We've seen at least a 7% increase in the past couple of years. I think it's been higher. Why would you want to get now everything on a commodity that's going up in value so much? I think this is why the case for rooftop solar plus storage, now with the new NEM 3.0 rules, it's really, really important to look at storage for your home as well, and a decent amount of it. And this is where you can really garner those savings by being sufficient on your own with that power production, with the ability to use it when you want to use it. And yes, of course, you're going to have some good interaction still. You're going to be having some back and forth with the grid, and the rates aren't as good as they were, under 2.0. NEM 3.0 is not as good a thing, but you can still garner significant savings, and in the face of raising prices for both natural gas and electricity, it's still a net savings to you as a homeowner. Yeah.
Heat pumps. Are there any heat pumps that go down, you put them down in the ground and get the warmth out of the ground?
Geothermal, yes.
No, well, okay, I don't mean, not a full-blown geothermal, but just...
Right. So his question was, is there any of this technology that utilizes the pipes down into the ground and uses heats and cools from the ground? Because down below X amount of feet, the temperature is pretty consistent year round. It's and I believe it's usually referred to as geothermal. My company doesn't offer that. I can't speak to it greatly. The research I've done is I've not been able to find anyone local to do that. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist, but I haven't been able to find anyone local doing it. So I haven't been able to, to pick anyone's brain in the local area I would love to learn more about it, just as you would. And I hope that technology comes to this area, and I'll continue to, my company, we always like to stay on the cutting edge of this stuff, especially when it's, cost effective to the homeowner at the end of the day. So as soon as I learn more about that, we'll definitely be advertising that in a meaningful way if it's more efficient than heat pumps. I think what we find in California here, every home's on a foundation, or the vast majority of newer homes are on foundations. And now with like a geothermal, you have to drill down X amount of feet to pipe out the cool or the heat, depending on the time of year. And I wasn't able to find anyone that would be willing to price that out, because just the homework on pricing it out is expensive. You've got to get soil reports, all this stuff. You're looking at a $5,000 investment before you've done anything. So that technology might get better. Drilling might get better for it. I don't know if it's there yet.
Hold for the mic, please.
Oh.
Our online people can't hear.
Okay, so the National Park Service Visitor Center down in Calabasas runs off geothermal. And you can easily go there. It's on Mulholland. You can see the pipes going under where they start, and then go under the parking lot and into the facility. And people would come in all the time, and they would say, "Oh, it's so cool in here, so nice." In the winter, they'd say that it's great heating, but it was all geothermal. You dig down 7 feet, it's 67 degrees year round. And I couldn't find any technology around here except that. But in the Midwest, a good percentage of the homes use it.
Right. And I think I'm speculating now, so let me make that clear. But I think the reason you don't see it as often as California, we have very rocky soil. Drilling down into the earth here is trickier than a lot of areas of the country where it's, older established, where our land mass is relatively new, so it's pushed up and rockier than like the East Coast. And again, I don't want to claim that I'm an expert on geothermal. I think it's absolutely a great thing, and you don't need much energy to run it. Once it's up, you might need a light fan pushing through, right? You might not even need that if it's set up to passively do it. But I just haven't been able to dig into the cost structure of it enough to talk too informed about it. So we'll hopefully maybe one of the vendors here knows a little bit more about geothermal and can help with that. But I think it's an awesome technology. I'll keep looking into it. Once I can find people who are doing it and can give us solid data and numbers on it, I'll gladly pass that technology on to homeowners. Yeah.
I know we're at time, but there's a quick remark here.
Yeah, Derek, also, when the website went up to check your rebate, I think a lot of people were writing that down and jotting it down, but isn't it true that folks can come to our booth outside and get that analysis run right on a computer?
Yeah, and again, all the booths here are, all the vendors here can definitely help you look at the rebates. Us at Greenstart Electrify, that's what we're geared to do. And I'm sure I'm sure all the other vendors here present are very well versed in this, so. Yeah, come out, check us out. We can talk more. If it looks like I'm just about out of time, but if there's any follow-up questions for me personally or for our company, we're just outside and to the left here, like everyone else. And but come meet all the other vendors once you hear all the speaking, and we look forward to helping you electrify your homes.
Very informative. I have done pretty much all the things that he mentioned to my house, and my gas bill is now about $5 a month. And that's because we haven't replaced our gas-fired clothes dryer. If we did that, we would pretty much be off the grid as far as gas goes. Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Where will the slides be available? How? Who back there would know that?
Did you sign up to attend? We're going to be sending a link to you with a way to download the slides.
Okay, Pamela has an announcement to make.
Little public service announcement before we started with the first talk. I did hear a bunch of coughing. We have masks in the back if you would like.
All right, moving on. Next speaker is Nissim Maimon from Pro360 Contractor, Inc., and his title is Heating and Cooling Your Home or Business. Nissim.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Derek. I'll let you know a little bit about myself. I'm a founder and co-owner of Pro360 Air Conditioning and Heating. And what we do is air conditioning. So thank you, Derek, to bring that topic into the stage and have everybody intrigued. Next slide, please. So right now, if we talk about heat pump, and the question is, what is a heat pump? And Derek did touch that subject. And the second question, why heat pump and why now? So heat pump, basically what it does, it moves heat from one place to another. We'll get a little bit deeper in the next slide about it and how it does it and how it happened and what's the actual mechanics that involved in it. And then as far as the efficiency, it's actually 3 to 5 times more efficient than any electric heat or fossil fuel. Why is it important to know? And First, you save money. Everybody here, I'm sure you want to save money. So saving money is important. But there is more to heat pump than saving money. Heat pumps it's a more comfort heat in the house. And the main reason for that comfort, it comes from the temperature coming out of the register. When you use your furnace, the air coming out of the register can be anywhere from 125 to 145 degrees. What it does to the particles in the air, it's kind of getting them so dry that when we go to sleep and we just breathe through our mouths, those particles scratch the throat, and then you wake up in the morning and you feel that it's hard to breathe or your throat is hurting, and just happen from us breathing. And another thing about heat pump is it's safer than most than most heating systems. Why do I say the most? Definitely safer than a furnace. Furnace has combustion in it. That means there is burning. We have the silent killer, which is really not something we want to experience. I personally did experience it once in my life, and we have a customer that if I have time, I'll tell you his story, which has really touched my heart. But the carbon monoxide is something we don't want in our home, and we want to avoid as much as possible. So in a heat pump system, we move heat from one place to another. Therefore, there is no combustion, there is no carbon monoxide. We don't have to worry about it. Can we still go back to the previous slide, please? I'll let you know when to switch the slides. The next thing is we talked about safety, we talked about comfort, and the saving. And the saving used to be almost not there before, and that goes to why now. Why now is because in the last 10 years, we had so much improvement in the efficiency of the heat pump systems that today you can get up to a 25 SEER heat pump system. Now, what is SEER? Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. Basically, I like to compare it to mile per gallon. The higher the number, the more efficient the system. So we used to have an efficiency up to 13 SEER, and then I think somewhere in the 2010, everything started changing, and we were introduced to the inverter compressor in a residential environment, which changed everything, and today we can get up to 25 SEER. So it becomes so efficient that it makes sense to use it. Again, it's money in your pocket, and your bank account is a little bit safer that way. Can we go to the next slide, please? So if you look at that slide, that talks about how heat pump system works. So the way it works, there is a refrigerant cycle. The refrigerants basically carry heat from one side to another. The easiest way to explain it, I'm assuming all of you have an air conditioning heating at your home. If you have an air conditioning system at your home and you turn it on in the summer to cool your home, if you had the chance to walk by your condenser, the outside unit, and put your hand on top of it or feel the air that comes out of it, you probably felt that there's a warm air coming out of it, because air conditioners don't really cool. They move heat from inside the house and they reject it outside. So that's how heat pump works. So how does it do that? It does that, heat pump system does that by having the refrigeration going and observe the heat inside the house and basically reject it outside. So how does heat pump work? Heat pump does the same thing, but instead of observing the heat from inside the house, it's taking the heat from the outside. It takes the heat from outside the house, observe it, and then reject it inside the house. This way, it's heating the house. Now, the heat pump system is going to heat your home a little bit slower than a furnace, because if we go back to the comfort, instead of having 125 degrees to 145 degrees coming out of the register, you're going to have about 95 to 120, 125 degrees coming out of the register, and that's actually good. We have customers that used to have humidifiers in their system to improve the indoor air quality, and after switching to a heat pump, my recommendation is always wait, don't install the humidifier, let's wait, save you money, and see if you really need it. And most often, I think I remember only one customer that needed to install a humidifier back into the system. So most often you don't need it. The heat is way more comfortable and it's easier on our body. Back to the refrigeration cycle. I was surprised because I researched when did the heat pump started, and it started in 1856 using water and steam, which was amazing to me because I thought it was just a recent thing in the 1950s or whatever. But it actually became more popular in the 1970s when fossil fuel became too expensive, and then a lot of states moved into heat pump. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of a heat pump system. You can see that there is a condenser outside. There is the outdoor unit. Now with the heat pump, we don't like to call it a condenser because they're switching direction. Remember, it's heating. It's going to heat inside the house in the winter, and it's going to cool in the summer. So it's changing. It's the outdoor unit, indoor unit. And you see an indoor unit, that's for a ductless system. And we can use it not only with ductless system. I sometimes hear the question, how can I heat my home as a central unit? So heat pumps are available as a central system with ducts, and it's available for any application. We talked a little bit, there was a question about geothermal. Geothermal systems are very, very efficient system, of course, because we use constant temperature from the ground. However, we don't see it here in California a lot. And I think the main reason is cost and our climate. In our climate, we don't have to worry about the temperature too much. It's almost never goes to below 32 degrees. So probably the efficiency of our standard heat pump system is good enough to be used in our climate. Next slide, please. So back to the reduction and saving. If we look at that chart, it's going to tell us a lot about how we can save money and how heat pump is way more efficient than most fossil fuels. Compared to natural gas, actually, I don't know if that's accurate because I think today it's more than just 105 because the gas prices went up. Derek mentioned it about a year and a half ago. Actually, a year ago, exactly. Gas prices went up, and at that time, the heat pump system becomes so more worth it that you don't have to think too much about it. But some heat pump system, like if you go with a 25 SEER system, HSPF is going to be like 9.5 or more, or even 10. At that point, it's probably going to be 3 to 4 times more efficient than natural gas furnace. Definitely way more efficient than electric furnace. Electric furnace transfer the energy 1-to-1. Heat pumps is up to 5-to-1, so it can be 5 times more efficient. Propane furnaces, again, depends on the cost of propane and so forth. Next slide, please. We can see how heat pump is very popular in some of the states, but not in too many. And a lot of time we ask why. I think because heat pumps were not as efficient as they are today, and now we're starting to see more of them. And I'll be honest with you, I have heat pump system at my home. Heat pump is probably the better choice regardless. Even if you don't save money and you don't have the rebates, it should be the choice of everybody because the safety is so great with the heat pump system. You don't have to worry about a cracked heat exchanger that gets you the silent killer into the house. So we can see that in some states we have more usage of heat pump than others, and we in California, we're below 20%. We want it to go as high as possible, and that's why there are so many incentives, not only federal, also local. Derek mentioned some of those, and there are more, and there is always a way to get some money back, depends on the area that you live in, the local incentives are different in each county. Next slide, please. One of the biggest questions I hear from people that research heat pump a little bit is, well, if it's freezing outside, how can you observe heat and transfer it to the house? There is no heat, it's freezing temperature, right? So that's a misconception, and I'll give you the best example you can think of. Refrigerators. Refrigerator use refrigerant to transfer heat, to get the freezer to below freezing temperature. So in order to get it to below freezing temperature, it's basically extract the heat from the freezer and then release it either underneath the refrigerator at the back or on the top, depends on the type of refrigerator. So that shows us that below freezing temperature, there is still heat and it can still be removed and utilized to something else. So don't worry about the freezing temperature. We can go up, Mitsubishi went up to minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit. And there are some US companies that working on a system that will go below minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the list of our worries here in Southern California. We don't even get close to those temperatures. Another proof that it works, 60% of homes in Norway using heat pump. That's the majority of the homes. So how do they get heat in the winter? Obviously, there is heat outside, even though it's below freezing temperatures. 43% in Sweden, 41% in Finland, and so they all have heat pump. And if they can have it, I'm sure we can have it too. In the 2021, 27,000 heat pump system installed in Maine, which is about 5% of the total homes in 1 year. That's a lot, and that's beautiful, and it's taking us where we want to be. Because at the end of the day, if you utilize a heat pump system and you have solars at your home, guess what? You're heating up your house for free, or you're cooling your house for free, and you're set. All you have to pay is the $15 for the utility company to stay connected. So we definitely see the benefit in that. If not safety and if not comfort, the money in your pocket. Next slide, please. So the Inflation Reduction Act, heat pump, those are the incentives we have today. You can, well, not today. The high efficiency electric home rebate is going to be available hopefully toward the end of this year. It was supposed to be available toward the end of last year. It didn't happen. Now they say the end of this year. But going back to my previous comment, heat pump is the way to go regardless of the rebates and the incentives. We still have the 25C, which means you can deduct up to, you can get a tax credit of up to $2,000. And there was a question if it's annually or per location. I don't have the answers, and I don't think you can find it because I was asked that question and I researched it. I couldn't find it online. The best place to go is your CPA. I think he will find the answer because I couldn't find it online. Another rebate that we have here in California is Cleantech California. It's a $1,000 rebate for a going heat pump, and it doesn't really matter what efficiency. My recommendation: don't go lower than 17 SEER. This is the highest single stage efficiency you can get. But if you can afford a higher efficiency, that's probably the best way to go. If you can go with a variable capacity system, that's inverter compressor, which will be way more efficient because it's also modulate based on the need of your home in the current moment. Meaning, if it's 85 outside and you just need 30% of the capacity of the system, it will drop down to the 30% of the capacity and will take very little energy. And then if you need 42%, it will go up to 42%. Those systems have 614 stages. So it can go even 42.5% of the capacity you really need. Next slide, heat pump water heaters. The best thing that I I think that happened to us in recent years. Basically, getting this water heater out of your home, not worrying about gas and burning or carbon monoxide or the cost of gas. They're very reliable and very safe, the safest you can have probably. And today you have a $3,100 rebate from Cleantech California, and you don't have to worry about processing those rebates. We do that for you, and the company you work with should do that for you. It's easy, and $3,100 are gonna be you're gonna be getting a check for that, replacing your water heater from gas to a heat pump. It's way more efficient than fossil fuel. Translate to saving. What else can we talk about water heater? They work exactly the same as a heat pump system, so as we explained before, the way it works. But instead of heating the air in the house, just heating the water in your tank. So then you get a hot water heater. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a slide of what is a heat pump water heater. If you look at the diagram on the right, you'll see all the tubes that are going inside, and around those tubes you're going to have water. Those tubes are filled with refrigerant, hot refrigerant, that transfer the heat from the outside, from the environment, into the water. And then you'll see that you have two sides of the water heater. One is the intake of the air. It says hot air, but it can be any air, just ambient air, into the system, and then observing the heat from it. And then the air that's going on the left side, which is the blue sign, that's the cold air that comes out after the heat was extracted from it. And basically, same as we talked about a heat pump system, that's how a heat pump water heater works. But it's, instead of heating the air, it's heating the water. Next slide, please. So that's another question that we hear a lot, like, is my heat pump water heater going to heat the water when it's 30 degrees outside? First, yes, it will. You don't have to worry about it. Second, most heat pump water heaters has heating element in it. So if everything goes bad, it needs to maintain temperature for you, and it will get the heating element started and heating up the water, and it's a backup heating just to make sure that you have hot water in the house. And that's something not to worry about. Annual electricity, yeah, it's depends on the number of occupants exactly. It depends of how many people and how much water do you use. You know, if you like to take long showers like me, probably going to be more than 500 kilowatt. But if you're okay with the quick and get out of the shower within 5 minutes, you can save money there too. Do you have models available anywhere from 40 gallons all the way to 120 gallons? Recently, we had a customer that wanted an 80-gallon water heater, wasn't sure if it's available. No problem. Anything you want, 40, 50, 65, 80, 120, they're all available. We talked about the pure resistance backup. You have a heating element as a backup on probably in all models, if not most of them. Can be powered as 240 volt or 115 or 120 volt. My recommendation is going with a 230 volt. Yes, it costs a little bit more. You need to run a different line, a dedicated line to the water heater, but it's basically more reliable and going to heat the water a little bit faster. And it's hard to find a 115 or 120 volt breaker that it's 40 amp. And I definitely don't think it's safe, or I don't know, the electrician here will tell me, is it safe to run those wires? And so the 230 volt is my recommendation if you choose a heat pump water heater. This is an Energy Star compliance. All of them actually that I'm aware of are Energy Star compliance. Next slide, please. Well, it's repeating the same. So yeah, you're saving money with heat pump, no question. You're saving anywhere from $290 a year to $620. And again, the more you use it, the more you save. The less you use it, the less you pay. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we talked about the $3,100 available for heat pump replacement. That's from Cleantech, California. And in addition, you can take up to $2,000 as a tax credit, but it has to be 30% or less, meaning actually 30% or more. So if it's 30% of the job, it's equal to $2,000. You can take that as a tax credit. If it's less than $2,000, then you're going to have a tax credit of less than $2,000. But the rebates are there, and they're great. The rebate's going to stop at one point, the same that happened last year, October, up to October 2023. We had a rebate from LADWP going heat pump system, switching from gas to heat pump, $3,000 per system. It's great. Plus the $1,000, that's a $4,000 per household. And LAWP went to like up to 2 systems in the house. So if you replace 2 systems, you got $6,000 back. And same with Cleantech, California. So you could have got probably $8,000. And we did have customers that did get $8,000 per house. So the rebates are here right now. It's going to continue for a little bit, but now is the time to take advantage of it and do all the upgrades you want. Electrify your home, solar rebates, water heater, heat pumps, and heat pump air conditioning and heating systems. Next slide, please. And this is where I'm telling you that this is me. So, questions? Any questions from anybody? Right there, please. but it's for the people online. So. There is an electric tankless option, but not for a heat pump, because the heat pump are moving heat from one place to another. In order for it to be tankless, you're going to need a huge heat pump system that will have a large compressor and will cost a lot, and it's going to be too expensive, so they don't exist yet. But you do have a tankless electric water heater. The problem with the houses today that the panels can only hold residential home 200 amp, and most houses will need a 120 to 150 amp just for the tankless electric heater. So that's why heat pump is a great option in the, if you want to go electric. One question right here.
I have 2 questions. If you get the rebate immediately, and then the next thing comes in at 30%, is that before or after the rebate?
The 30% tax credit is from the invoice. It's not related to the rebate. The rebate is yours, it's different, but whatever the invoice is. And the rebates takes us about 2 to 3 months to process until you get the check, so it's not immediate.
I'm curious about recirculating pumps to get immediate hot water. How is that impacted with this? Is this something that's separate or something that's just lovely with the pumps?
So recirculating pump will work the same with heat pump as it will work with a tank water heater or with a tankless. If you have to have a recirculating pump because long distance from the water heater, yes, if you have it right now, I will recommend to keep it. But it works exactly the same. Yes.
Hi. Do you have to have a heat pump in order to get a heat pump water heater?
No, you don't have to have a heat pump air condition and heating system in order to have a heat pump water heater. No, it's separate machines. You can have one or the other or both.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. 2 questions. One is actually 3. Are there outside water heater pump? Can they be outside?
Yes, actually, they can be outside, but they need to be in enclosure. But you want it in an area that there is uninterrupted air from the ambient, so from the environment, so it's not in closed place. But we did install it in closets, and we just installed ventilation or vents to get air from the outside and then exhaust to the outside as well. But it can be installed outside, yes.
Okay, what's the best one? Is there a choice between one or the other that you think
it's
is
your
better?
own preference. The both will work the same. They are designed to fight the resistance of the vent that you add to it. It doesn't reduce the efficiency or anything. It's whatever works for you and works with the codes, because sometimes people ask us to put it at the side of the house, but there is a fire code that we have to maintain 5 feet, so we can install it there. So yeah,
Okay.
it depends on, yeah.
And also for warming your home, we have very big space because we go all the way to the ceiling, etc. So is a heat pump going to be a good choice? Is that going to be satisfying enough for such high volume?
So if you have a high ceiling, either way, heat pump or gas furnace, what happens with heat? It rises, right? It's going to go up, and if your vents are up high, it's going to take forever to heat the lower space. So it really doesn't matter if you use a heat pump or a gas furnace, but if you have high ceiling, I recommend put the vents either low on the wall or on the floor, or go with the hydronic heat and find a different solution for that. Because if your ceiling is 14 feet and higher, then it's going to be a problem to heat the space. So then hydronic heat on the floor, it's probably the best choice. Any more questions?
Hold for the mic, please.
Can you replace your, say, current gas water heater with a heat pump water heater?
The question is, can you replace a gas water heater with a heat pump? The answer is yes. That's what we want to do, yes. We want to get this fossil fuel appliances out of your home and get you safe and efficient, make your home safer and more efficient, definitely. So yes, you can. If you go with a 230 volt or 240 volt line, then you have to run a dedicated line in addition to replacing it. And if it's if you want to go with well, in most cases you're going to need to run electric line, dedicated electric line anyway. All right. Thank you, everybody.
I'll add a footnote on the last question. After we put in the heat pump for heating our house, I was thinking, well, someday it would be nice to replace the water heater also. And within a week, our gas water heater committed suicide in a very dramatic manner, spraying water all around the garage. So he said, good, this is a good time to put in a heat pump hot water heater, and it works great. Okay, our next speaker is Pete Marsh, and he's, the switch is on, is that related to Citizens Climate Lobby? We're cousins. Yeah, and he is going to talk about the benefits of electric appliances.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dick. Wow, just what a treat, and a big shout out to Faith and Adrian and the entire CCL chapter from Ventura County here. You've coordinated a great show. Thanks to Chalice, UU, great facility, and the whole thing is incredibly well organized. Thank you, and a big shout out to all the vendors and cities and nonprofits out here. So let's see. I'll hold for a second. Here we go. All right, future-proofing. That's the way I like to think about that. And I've got a couple of slides in a minute that will try to dramatize that. But really, the solution to climate change is we can use electrification to decarbonize 80 to 90% of our economy. That much. And it's already cheaper, better performance, and more effective. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit about me. But before I dive into that, I want to just ask really quickly. I've got my little magician's bag of tricks here. So how many of us have ever been through any change in our lives? Right? I grew up with a phone like that in Kentucky, and I think we must have been just a few years away from a party line. So we've all seen massive change in our lives. I certainly have. So I spent 25 years in the Coast Guard. I was on a couple of ships. I spent a lot of my time in telecommunications. That's where I first came across solar. I spent 10 more years in the defense industry. One of my companies was owned by Alaskan natives, and you can see on the middle left there a group of Inuit Native Alaskans installing a Wi-Fi system in the Smithsonian Institution. We were lucky enough to get that contract. And so, and then I saw Inconvenient Truth, and I said, wow, I need to change what I'm doing to make a difference. And I self-apprenticed, basically, became a solar contractor. About 9 years ago. I worked for Solar City for a whole 4 months, and I was doing just sales and couldn't stand that, so I needed to learn more, and founded my own small solar contractor business. Oh, wow, thank you very much. And so anyway, then we moved to Long Beach from Redding, where I used to be. I didn't restart the business because that was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so now I'm doing mostly volunteer work with the Switches On, which is part of the Building Decarbonization Coalition, also with Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm actually the leader of the Long Beach chapter of CCL. I work with Climate Reality Project, too many climate organizations to list, 350. And I've become convinced that electrification is what we need to do. Okay, next slide, please. And, you know, why am I doing this? It's for those 3 little girls and all of your grandkids and all of us to have a future. And, you know, the famous climate philosopher George Carlin has said, you know, right? The planet will be fine. The planet will shake humanity off like fleas. The people are bleeped, all right? So we need to do everything we can to avoid all the stresses on human civilization, on human economy, and all the damage we're doing to ecosystems. Next slide, please. Citizens Climate Lobby, Faith told you a little bit about us. We're nominally 200,000 volunteers in almost 500 chapters around the country, nearly every U.S. congressional district, and 60 action teams focused on different aspects of climate solutions. I am so lucky to be one of the co-leaders of our electrification action team, and we work with chapters around the country to encourage outreach and this forum and others. All right, next. So, you've heard me say it already, electrify everything. The machines in our daily lives, in our households, our businesses, and our transport. Better performance, safer, healthier, and more comfortable, lower cost. Honest to gosh. And we had some questions about cost and bill savings. I'll talk about that in a minute. Next. Okay, I talked about transfer. Oh, closer to the mic? I'm sorry, thank you. I think I got these backwards. Can you flip one slide ahead? Back, 2? Yeah, there we go. In just 13 years in New York City, we had massive transformation. This is the year 1900 on 5th Avenue in Manhattan. All a bunch of horses and buggies and a single car. 13 years later, next slide, please. A bunch of cars. Show me where the horse and buggy is. We are at that moment. Yesterday, many of us probably followed David Roberts, who's one of the best climate solutions writers out there. He runs a newsletter called Volts.wtf. And yesterday, he tweeted that he had recently been at a private dinner with the CEO of one of the major energy companies in the United States, and off the record asked him, what do you think is going to be happening with the energy transition? You know, what's it going to be? Hydrogen, solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear? And the guy said, solar and storage are going to eat everybody else's lunch. They're getting so much cheaper so fast, and it's going to happen before we realize it. They will not be exclusively the only sources. They will be, however, almost dominant in most regions of the world. I've been thinking that for a while, but anyway. All right, next slide. So this is yet another view of transitions. I showed you the telephone thing. This is 15 other technologies throughout the 20th century, from 1900 to 2005. This is a slide from Harvard Business Review showing technology adoption curves for each of these technologies and how they achieved market penetration. The energy transition is following curves like this: electric vehicles, renewable energy generation, the machines that we've all talked about already, heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, induction cooking, etc. Next slide. So, even a decade ago, it was really unclear. The whole green building movement was all about, let's make everything as efficient as possible, make the building envelope as tight as we can, make those gas furnaces as efficient as possible. But guess what? We can't efficiency our way to zero. And over the last decade, thanks to stimulus money from the American Recovery Act and after the 2008 housing crisis, investment in solar and wind incentives have made them the least expensive form of generating electricity in the world, in almost every place in the world. And these are a list of 18 studies that say it will be not only technically feasible to generate all the electricity we need from renewables, zero carbon solutions, it will be less expensive. And there's many more than just these. All right, next. Okay, so that's a little, I love to talk about transition is scary, but it's actually not as big a deal as we think. Okay, so we have to electrify everything almost and decarbonize the grid. The first bullet is the demand side of the equation. The second bullet, decarbonizing the grid, that is happening because of renewable portfolio standards and other solutions, and because of the economies I already talked about. And but we don't have much control over that. We use whatever power is put into the wires by Edison or LADWP, whoever our power provider is, right? But the first bullet is entirely within our choice and our control as consumers. And that's, you've heard about heat pumps and heat pump water heaters already. I'm going to show you a couple of the other magic toys that help us. Next. Okay, but before I get to induction cooking and heat pump clothes dryers and yard tools, those are my topics, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the incentives. And you've already heard a little bit from Derek and from Nissim about the incentives that are available. And all of these are, you can see their links, and they're going to be in the slide deck that you'll get the link to afterwards. And I've got the link out at my table, which is booth number 10. So it can be really confusing to try to find all the incentives. I have a contract as a consultant right now just to help find the incentives for a person who's electrifying a pretty small multifamily building, just 5 units. But he didn't want to deal with all of that on his own. So, and I've sort of done hand waving about it, but now it was, okay, now I'm getting paid. I better get down and find the real answer here and root out every single dollar I can find for my client, right? So the holy grail of incentive information is desire, a fun nickname. They've been around for over a decade. It's run by North Carolina State University, of all places, the database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency. They list, you put in your zip code, and they spit out lists of, for 91320, I think I got 58 incentives, not all to homeowners, some were for the utility companies, et cetera. But so that's sort of the top level parent thing. The Inflation Reduction Act, incredible, $370 billion from federal money passed a year and a half ago. It's in place for 10 years. Like almost everything the U.S. federal government does, it's mostly tax incentives, it's mostly carrots, very few sticks. But it's a significant and massive investment in beginning to transform, especially our end-use machines. Tech Clean California is a great database of local incentives also. Let me check time. I'm looking at the clock there, and it seems to be frozen at the bottom. 23 minutes. Okay, cool. I'm making good progress. Anyway, and then 3C Ren, one of our my neighbor booth outside, the Renewable Energy Network. California has approximately 10 or a dozen RENs, Bay Area, Southern California REN for me, where I come from, Long Beach and Los Angeles County, et cetera. They provide incentives and they provide technical advice and assistance. Utility companies have a lot of incentives, and so do cities and counties. So that's sort of the framework. Show me the money. This is where to go looking for it. Okay, next slide, please. So here is a screenshot of Desire. I've told you already it's the best overall one out there, and you put in your zip code and you get an answer. Next. And here's the example. Oh, I've already given away the secret on this slide. 58 incentive programs. Next. Okay, Inflation Reduction Act. Most of the incentives here come in two different flavors. There's either rebates, money that you get back or don't pay at the point of sale, or there's tax credits where you pay the full price up front and then you get a 30% tax credit next year when you file your taxes for this year. The breakdown is for low and moderate income households, the IRA is structured to provide mostly rebates so that they don't have to come up with that out of pocket up front. And so there's two breakpoints, 80% of area median income and 150%. Here in, let's see, did I put it up there? I think here in Ventura County, the area median income is 120 some odd thousand, and so you've got a percentage for a family of four. And so that's the break point, whether you're going to be getting either rebates or tax credits. And there are two different programs, Homes and HERA. And so there's a bunch of detail, but those are the main points that I needed to make there. Next. And here's the detail on how to find out area median income and what you qualify for. Mostly, we as consumers probably won't need to know this. Probably contractors and or the REN programs or others will help us with that. But you search for area median income in your county, and this is the table for Ventura County. Next. Okay. For the IRA, the authoritative site is the IRS website. That's, Congress passed the law, the IRS is implementing them. So this is, and the reason I mention this is, like any other program, there's a lot of hand waving and, oh yeah, it's such and such, it's so-and-so, and you'll hear people give different percentages or amounts. This is where you need to go if you have to authoritatively answer a question. However, it's not as cleanly structured as we would love, so there we can. Is that the nicest way to say something about the IRS? So anyway, so you go find your Captain Crunch decoder ring, right? Next slide, please. And Derek already stole my thunder. This is the Rewiring America, one of my personal favorite nonprofits in the country, only about 3 or 4 years old. And I think I have a slide about the founder. But anyway, you go to rewiringamerica.org, and they have an IRA calculator button right at the front, and you put in not just your zip code now, but you put in your household number and income, 6 pieces of information, and it spits out a total list of all the incentives that you personally will be eligible for, and whether they're the rebates or the tax credits, and for which appliances. So that's a easy way to cut through all the detail. Next. My group, Switches On, has an incentive finder, and very similar, just the zip code and the appliance. They'll tell you a list of incentives. Switches On focuses on California state incentives. Rewiring America's calculator is all about the Federal Inflation Reduction Act. So there are 2 different sets of buckets of money from these 2 websites. Next. So I talked about, no, back one, please. Bing, there we go, the green boxes. So rebates or tax credits, and low income, low and moderate, or higher income. One of the fundamental things that I believe and is embodied in the Inflation Reduction Act is if a household has higher income, they have the wherewithal and maybe the decision-making authority as a building owner, not a tenant, to take care of a lot of these things themselves. Renters, not so much, especially in multifamily. So this is 7 different programs totaling $43 billion for out of the Inflation Reduction Act for climate pollution reduction grants. So these are all being rolled out by EPA and Treasury and set up to go to the states. And that's all in process right now. Okay, next. All right, so how many of us have a deep understanding of magnetism and the refrigeration cycle? How many of us have a deep understanding of fire? All right, my point is, it's just kind of intuitive that when we burn stuff, we get heat. And that's what the last 2 centuries. Amory Lovins, one of the heroes of the energy transformation, he's the founder of Rocky Mountain Institute. He famously said, fire made us human. Fossil fuels made us modern. So the ability to easily control fire on demand, right? And we've taken advantage of that for just 200 or 300 years, really. And but guess what? There are better ways. So we're going to talk about cooking with magnets. Next. Here's some of the ways we've cooked our food over the last couple of 100 years. Next. So, cooking with gas, we all remember that. That line came into our lexicon in the 1930s thanks to Bob Hope. Why? Because the American Gas Association, they had a lobby industry even in the 1930s. The American Gas Association had an employee who knew one of the copywriters for Bob Hope's radio show and slipped him this line, "Oh, now you're cooking with gas." I've said that for most of my life. Now I kick myself for that, but it became part of the lexicon. Why were the 1930s important? The gas industry at that time had just lost the battle for lighting in our buildings. Edison and Westinghouse won with electricity for lighting. But when it came in the 1920s and 1930s, when it was time to replace this dual fuel beauty that could burn wood or coal in our kitchens, are we gonna replace it with gas or with electric? They were both available. Next. and more marketing from the American Gas Association. Boo, but that's the type of thing that we've been living with literally for decades. Next. And they've been telling us it's healthy too, right? Oh, no problem. They have been suppressing studies for decades that show, and the most recent meta-studies say, yeah, kids who grow up in households with gas stoves are 40+% more likely to have asthma. So the health impacts of cooking with gas are actually even more substantial than the climate impacts. Next, how does it work? Well, magnetism. And I've got an induction cooktop out there, and so does Edison, I believe. It's just a magnetic coil, and you put a magnetic pot on top of it, and it excites the molecules in the pot and gets your food hot. Less wasted energy. Very precise control. People say, oh, but my gas stove, I have to, when I'm trying to cook eggs on our gas stove, where's that flame? But with my induction cooktop, I just say, oh, that's number 4 for scrambled eggs. So next, there's my induction cooktop, and there's my middle granddaughter, Olivia, marching through. We've got the knobs on the stove to try to keep the kids from accidentally turning on the burner and blowing up the house, right? The second red arrow in the top right is pointing to the little toaster oven that we use for, 80 or 90% of our baking and cooking and stuff. So, we bought the house. It has a gas stove. We haven't replaced it yet, but we're cooking mostly electric. Next, here's another induction portable unit, a double burner, and, it's easy and inexpensive. Next. Pardon me. So here's a set of induction ranges that I just went out and surfed the web. I've been and looked at these in the store also, but prices ranging from $1,100 up to $1,400 for several different, that's the entry point for induction ranges. I saw at the same time, about middle of last year, the cheapest either plain electric resistance or gas start at $600 or $700. So there is a little bit of a price premium up front, but the websites we talked about already have enough money to offset the price premium and then some. Next. Okay, cookware. If you're not sure if your existing pots and pans will work, stick a magnet on them. It works by magnetism. And there's the list of types. Cast iron, steel. But if your pot is plain glass or ceramic or aluminum, then it's not going to work. All right, next. Here's another reason that induction is going to be a huge help. We've all heard the saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? Well, and that's in the cooking industry. And they're famous for living and working in 100, 120, 130 degree environments. So induction cooktops don't emit all that waste heat into the kitchen. I've read that the kitchens can be 10 or 20 degrees cooler with induction. Next. Okay, specific incentives for electric cooking. That came out pretty puny, but the number is $840 is the rebate and or tax credit you can get. Next. And Switches On also has incentives. There's nothing right now specifically for induction cooking that's state of California money, but if you do a whole home, heating, water heating, cooking, and laundry, then you get a $5,000, $5,500 credit for single family. Next, okay, and more cooking, electric barbecue grills. I've had a gas grill for years, but I retired it recently. I'm doing pellets right now, and having learned more about pellets, I wish I hadn't. Should have gone straight to electric, but there's good options for electric. George Foreman grills. All right, next, electric fireplaces. Next. Okay, and where are we time-wise? 9 minutes, okay. So, laundry. I told you we'd get to clothes dryers. Top right, first of all, there's the original wind and solar-powered clothes drying. A nice little alleyway in Italy. Next. So, here's a question. Why do we have two machines, one for washing and one for drying? You know, they are sort of two different functions, but it turns out smart manufacturers are making all-in-one machines, so one and done. GE has this thing. You put your clothes in, it runs water in and washes them first, and then it runs a heat pump and dries them. There's not that extra hot air, it's not the super hot air that you get in a regular dryer. There's no lint and there's no need to run an exhaust flimsy tube out to the wall, and it always falls off and creates a little pile of lint in the back corner behind your dryer. You don't need that, so you can put it anywhere in the house. You do need a drain pan or to empty a little catch basin every 2 or 3 loads. But super efficient. Next. And here's a detailed view of how it works. You know, I already said on the top left you see no heating element, no need to vent, so, but it just tumbles clothes and gets them dry. Next. And here's the incentives also for the clothes dryer. The number is the same, 840, as it is for an induction stove. I implied earlier, I want to correct it, but both for clothes drying and for induction stoves, there is a rebate available under the HERA program for the low and moderate income, but strangely, for some reason, the Congress did not include tax credits for the higher income folks. So we're on our own if we're higher income, but lower income get the rebates. Okay, next. Okay, landscaping tools. I say electrify everything, I mean it. You know, and these are fantastic. Equal or even greater power, just like, you know, my electric car is the fastest fastest car I've ever owned. My electric chainsaw is equally powerful as the same size and weight 2-cycle gas-powered chainsaw. And this is my set of tools, and you can see all of those out at my booth out there. I left the batteries off, and we're not going to be firing up the chainsaw. But I spent 4 days after a winter storm cutting up 14 trees that came down on a property when we lived in a more rural area a few years ago in a winter storm. So works just fine. 3 batteries, 1 chainsaw. Cycle the batteries through the charger, easy peasy. Next, what's one of the biggest benefits of yard tools? Getting rid of all those 2-cycle engines. They're horrible for the pollutants that form smog. Next slide. I think I have the slide in here. Yeah, so the California Air Resources Board says a lawnmower for 1 hour is the equivalent of driving a car 300 miles, a regular gas car. A leaf blower for 1 hour is the same as 1,100 miles. Those are massive numbers to me, and I haven't gone into the detail, but that's a lot of nitrogen dioxide, et cetera. So can we do better? Yes. Next. Electric lawnmowers. I've had a corded electric lawnmower for a little over 20 years now, and the cord is a pain in the neck, but you know, you get practiced and, oh, I have to mow in this pattern so I don't run over my cord. But now the battery powered are even better. Next. But we're used to the 10-year ago electric yard tools that were just pretty wimpy, right? That's changed. Batteries are more powerful. Consumer Reports is where this busy slide came from. The lighter green on the right is all their ratings on gas-powered leaf blowers. The bright green in the middle is electric leaf blowers. And the scores for electric are from 89 down to 83. The scores for gas-powered leaf blowers don't even start until the highest is in the 70s down to 60. So every single one of the top 10 electric leaf blowers is better than the top 10, the highest rated of the top 10 gas leaf blowers. So we just have to change our thought processes. Okay, next. Same pattern for lawnmowers. Thank you, I'm sorry. We'll go on, same pattern for chainsaws. Continue, and there's some incentives. One more. So one of the other key questions, in addition to show me the money, it's who do I call? Well, any of the contractors that are here is one way to start, but Switches On has a website. It's switcheson.org. You type in the zip code and you can get a list of contractors. And I think there were 62 contractors within a 50-mile radius of Thousand Oaks when I made this slide a couple of days ago. So these are ones who have registered with the state as, yeah, we do electric appliances. Next. Okay, so how many people have heard of the SOARS program, Small Off-Road Engines? That is a law that was passed about 3 years ago, came into effect the beginning of this year. It's no longer allowable to purchase a gas-powered yard tool in California. Landscaping companies were very worried about this. 5 minutes, thank you, Pam. And so they've had a bunch of work groups with landscaping companies. What's the best way to implement this? Next slide. And so there's quite a bit of incentive program available both to households and to landscapers to replace your yard tools. Next. Here we go. This is the one I was looking for. And so the center column is residential rebates that are available for the different types of yard tools. And the right-hand column is what a landscaping company can get because they have to replace several pieces of machinery in their inventory. Next. So that is my 3 household machines. It's been a delight. Thank you. We've got a few minutes for Q&A. Yes, go ahead.
What do we do with batteries when they die? How do they get replaced? What's the pollution stuff with it and the costs, et cetera?
What about them batteries? What about all the minerals and rare metals that we're going to need for the renewable energy transition, right? The oil companies would love us to believe that that's a massive problem. While they are drilling and mining and extracting 15 billion tons of oil, coal, and gas every year, the grand total of all the other minerals we will need for battery-powered transport and machines and grid is a few tens of millions of tons over 30 years. It's roughly a 500 or maybe even 1,000-fold difference. That's just the weight of the materials, but and there are absolutely some greater impacts of, my brother was a coal miner. There are greater impacts of some of the mining over drilling, but they're not as bad as we have been told. For a second, let's say my electric car is now 3 years old. I'll probably drive it. The battery performance on electric vehicles is turning out to be very good. There's moderate degradation. We've heard some horror stories, but the statistics say they're seeing 10 or 20% degradation over 20 years. When that battery is no longer adequate for transportation, the battery pack can be removed, put into a building with a bunch of other battery packs, and used as stationary storage for the electric grid and live another 20 years. and only then will it be need to be recycled. But batteries are already the most recycled product in the United States economy, 96, 97%. So not as big a deal as we've been told. 2 minutes. Nope, I think she was, oh. And then another question back there.
The power setups for the induction, like I have a gas cooktop.
Yeah.
If I go to electric, then is it 110 or 240?
For cooking, you're almost always going to need a 240 volt outlet. That is the single biggest circuit upgrade requirement in the whole equation. My heat pump, when I switched from gas to heat pump 2 years ago, it's a 240 volt circuit, but it's only 20 amps. They reused the same wire as had been there running 110 volts. That's more of that magic. But so we're going to have to run a 6-gauge wire with an extra conductor, 240 volts. And the portable, yeah, that's correct. The portable one, yeah. So, yes. Yes, ma'am.
My question is in regards to, are there incentives to upgrade your own electrical panels? If you need an additional panel at your home, are there incentives to help us?
Yeah. That's a big concern. I bought a 100-year-old house 4 years ago. We chose to upgrade the electrical panel, which was only 100 amps. But there's more recent studies that have come out that say 98% of the households that have 100 amp electrical panels, which were prevalent from the 1960s to today, 98% of them can fully electrify within 100 amps. So the actual need electrically to upgrade is going to be somewhat minimal. But I chose to upgrade mine in part because it looked like it was 60 or 70 years old and rusty as heck, and it scared me. So there are incentives. I'm sorry. You asked about the money, and I talked about the other. Yeah.
One quick point, it's not a question, but you can go to your local library and check out an inductive range for free. And once you try an inductive range, just plug it into the standard wall outlet and you boil water in no time at all, you'll be hooked.
You'll never go back to gas or traditional electric. I have two, you gave a lot of good historical background. I have two more historical tidbits I would like to give you. Here is a quote by a famous American, and I'm asking you, who made the quote and when? I'd put my money on sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope we don't have to wait until all the oil and coal are gone before we do that. Who said that? Thomas Edison. And when? 1931. So it's been, what, 97 years for us to finally catch up with that? Also, you mentioned about the gas company and their advertising. From when I was a kid, I suppose maybe 1960, I remember an advertising song that I would hear on the radio. Electricity costs less today, you know, than it did 25 years ago. A little birdie told me so. Beep, beep, little Bill. Which I suppose must have been the electric companies then, trying to get people off of gas, but I had that song burned into my head. Okay, it is lunchtime. There is food available in the fellowship hall across the way. Thank you. Let's give one more round of applause to all the speakers. We resume at 1 o'clock in here. What did you think of this morning? I was impressed. Yeah. There. It is 1:02, but people are probably having so much fun talking about heat pumps out there. We'll start in a couple more minutes. Yeah, let's get started. Our first talk this afternoon is by Dean Kato, whose current affiliation is SunGreen Systems. One of his claims to fame is that he installed the additional solar panel and batteries at my house. So I was impressed with his knowledge of the ins and outs of the solar business. So his subject is commercial rooftop solar and battery storage. Dean Kato.
By a show of hands, raise your hand if you work at a company and you have high electric bills. Or you're a business owner and you have buildings. And so I'm here to just give you some basic background on how you can reduce your energy bills with commercial solar. Or before you even go solar, you always address your roof. Make sure the drains are clear and you've got a good roofer and you make all those patches when you can. The first thing you want to do is LED lighting retrofits. You want to go with HVAC retrofits, heat pumps. Ask your employees not to use the space heaters. Basic things like that. When you have an employee who says, hey, I want to charge my Tesla or my EV, say, hey, we got a great idea. Run your outlet through the 110-volt outlet in the parking lot. You don't need to put a EV charger for that employee because it can make your demand charges go through the roof. With commercial solar, your bills, only 1/4 or 1/3 of your bill is actually electricity. 2/3 or half is demand charges, and another 1/4 are just fees. And so a lot of people go solar for their business or for the company they work for, and like, hey, we went solar, but we still have 2/3 of our bill left. And that's because the sales rep needs to tell you that 2/3 of the bill you can't reduce from just solar alone. You have to have a commercial battery. A commercial battery allows you to have it charge at night from the grid when the energy rates are low. It discharges during the daytime when your air conditioning's running and your equipment's running to reduce your demand charges. A demand charge is any peak within a 15-minute interval. Whatever the highest amount of power you use, that's your rate of demand. And then Edison or DWP, they multiply that times $22 or even higher. And that becomes that fixed cost on your electric bill that you can't seem to reduce. And a lot of times you look at a residential bill, it's very confusing. Take a look at a commercial bill, you get a headache looking at it. So my job is I go through, I look at electric bills, we help dissect it, and we like to let people know what can be done to reduce the commercial electric bills from Southern Cal Edison or LADWP. One of the key things is to make sure that the roof is in healthy condition. Always get the roofer involved. That's the most important part. People drive by schools and high schools and businesses and say, wow, those carports look great. Before you think about carports, you have to ask yourself, can we use the roof? A carport system can cost double of whatever a rooftop solar system can cost. A ground mount carport system also requires a soils report, a lot of testing, and it could be a minimum of $5,000 to $8,000 just up front to determine if your parking lot is suitable for a carport. Then you have one of the things that people always ask is, how long will it take? Typically, a commercial solar project in like a city like of Camarillo is anywhere from 8 or 9 months. Camarillo is one of the best cities for going solar for businesses. They're very efficient. The building department and the inspectors are very experienced. Some jurisdictions can take 1.5 years to 2 years. Sometimes the plans can sit on a desk or in a department for a year before they actually approve the plans. And so business owners need to be aware that going solar in commercial is a process. You can't go solar, sign a contract, and expect in a few months your bills to go down. Commercial solar is not magic. We can only work with the city. We can work with your building. The key, though, is your facility operations people have to do their best to reduce the peak loads that we experience. Sometimes people go solar, they wait a year, gets installed, we get permission to operate from Edison 6 months later, but then their bills are still high, and that's because they added a lot of new electric forklifts and EV charging stations, additional electrical equipment, and that's where the key is good communication with whoever you select. You've got to interview firms and find out what kind of communicators are you, because in commercial solar, communication is the key. You have to hire a firm that will answer your phone call, answer emails, answer texts. You have to have great communication with all projects, but especially with commercial solar, so that you have your expectations are managed. I'd like to open up for questions. Any questions about going solar for your business? Question.
The long process of getting all the approvals and everything like that. If you give a bid, if you give a quote, and then circumstances under my control mean that the project doesn't go forward for a year, is your quote still good?
A lot of times, a contractor will have a contingency. We know what the cost will likely be. Sometimes there could be a change order if maybe the cost of copper or something goes up. I'd say on every commercial projects I've had since 2018, I've had 0 change orders. Some projects take a year, 1.5 years, but it's interesting, but sometimes the cost of equipment goes up and then drops back down. But currently in 2024, all commercial projects now have to have prevailing wage. So the purpose of that is so that the guys installing on the roof that are out in the sun all day, they're earning a sustainable wage that the project managers, sales reps, and owners are earning. So that's what the 2024 prevailing wage is all about. A lot of people, too, will say, hey, what about free solar? Well, it's not free, but there's 0 down. You can go solar for your business, nothing out of pocket. You get a savings of 10 or 15% of your electric bill, and you don't have to worry about re-roofing. It's all taken care of for you. It's a 20-year power purchase agreement. For some businesses, it's a great solution. Go solar, nothing out of pocket, get a brand new roof, and get $30,000 a year for rental of your roof space. So the key is put your roof to work for your business.
Hang on. If you're going to add EV charging and stuff like that, is that something you strategically plan on afterwards so it doesn't go into your rates and keep those things down? It just sounds like a whole strategic planning to keep it low before you do it. And can you get away with that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. When I added a NEMA 1450 outlet for my house, for my Tesla, it was $500 plus labor. If you get a bid for a NEMA 1450 outlet at your business, it could cost $12,000 per unit because you have to upgrade your business's 3-phase 480 volt main service panel. And that's very expensive. So a lot of times it's better to put in 110 volt outlets with lockable waterproof enclosures in a certain part of your parking lot or in your parking structure, and let your customers, tenants, and employees plug in and trickle charge their car. That is actually a sustainable way that we can all get through this next step of electrification. The thought of having multiple level 2 charging stations for all of our employees and coworkers and tenants is not feasible. You would have to upgrade the main service. You would have to have, it's very expensive. And it would also make your demand for your business go through the roof. That is not sustainable. We're trying to reduce demand. It's better to trickle charge your car at 3 miles per hour than to let your coworkers charge at 28 miles per hour. There's no reason that we need to have fast charging or even level 2 charging for people that are driving 5-10 miles to get to work each day. Any questions? Okay.
Because you mentioned the 20-year power purchase agreement, can you talk a bit more about that? How does that work? Like a company who's the agreement with? Is it with Edison?
The agreement would be with a third party. You would have a firm like us install it. A third party would finance it. You would pay them your monthly payment, your monthly lease payment, and you would get all the, they would keep the incentives, but you would get solar on your roof, solar for your business, clean energy for your business, anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 for use of your roof. There's also options to get your roof redone up front and then maintained by the third party. And it's for 20 years, you're never on the hook for service calls, maintenance, equipment failures. It's just a power purchase agreement. It transfers with the building. Yeah, just like a lot of other items in the building, it would transfer over.
When you were redoing my roof, you said if the total amount of generation went over 10 kilowatts, then it would be considered a commercial power source?
For residential energy storage systems, having 2 Tesla Powerwalls in your case allowed you to get permission to operate much quicker than if you had a third battery. The third battery could possibly take a year to a year and a half for permission to operate because of the different category that Edison places on more than 2 Tesla Powerwalls or 27 kilowatt hours. Getting back to energy storage, one of the things about energy storage for your business is the lead times. A backup battery for a business or an energy storage battery can take anywhere from a year to 2 years to install. So it's a very long process. Savings aren't immediate, but the incentives are very good. It's also important to know that a lot of the commercial energy storage demand-reducing batteries are not backup batteries. It's always better to back up businesses with gas-powered portable generators that are on trailers. We're just not at that stage yet where batteries can back up an entire building. Only the essential loads can be backed up. Same with on a residential home. Just the essential loads are what you would back up with a battery system. Any other questions? I think I'm out of time. All right, thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you, Dean. And now for the other side of the building electrification, residential rooftop and solar batteries. Alexa Colon. Did I pronounce it right? You did. Thank you.
Just like perfume. Get me on over. I can talk really loud as well. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexa Colon. I'm here with the PoweredUp Network. We are also known as Electriq Power. Just to give you a little bit of background on who we are and maybe the confusing names here. So Electriq Power is our parent company. We started actually making batteries. Our founder, Jim Lovewell, had someone crash their Nissan Leaf in his front yard. And from there, he used that battery to make the first battery that founded Electriq Power. So what we are is a residential and solar company, and we provide a program called the PoweredUp Network. So if you want to go to the next slide. So through our PoweredUp Network program, we look to offer a sustainable community network. So we come into communities like Ventura County, we do the same in Santa Barbara County, up in SLO County, and kind of expanding across California. And with our program, what we want to offer is accessibility to residential solar and battery. So really kind of taking a step back here, our program was really designed to offset a lot of the challenges that we all face today. I'm sure that a lot of the problems that I show on the screen here on the next slide are things that resonate with all of you, whether it's your Edison bill going up. I know I feel that very painfully all the time. Or instability, grid instability, planned and unplanned outages. I always find that my planned outages never actually make it to my front door. I never have any notice and I'm stuck without power and Wi-Fi. Or whether it's just, reducing your footprint on the grid. Everyone has their own motive as to why they're looking to bring electrification into their life, but that's really why we're all here. And my final problem here that a lot of people might face, sorry if I keep enunciating into this microphone too aggressively, is just feeling like you might have a lack of options. The biggest challenge that I hear typically is the financial implication, is the barrier to entry to electrification. And so that's really why at Electriq Power we started our PoweredUp networks and our sustainable community networks. So if you want to jump to the next slide for me, let me give you kind of a background as to how it works. So our sustainable community networks are founded on the idea of microgrids as a solution for the future. You've probably heard of this as at a community level, at a commercial level, but we're trying to bring it to the residential level. So microgrid, meaning that from your home, you have a solar array and a backup battery that allows you to operate independently when the grid goes down. You really have control over your own system. So part of our program is that we actually provide the solar array and backup battery that's custom fit for your home. We'll come in and we'll take a 12-month overlook of your utility usage. We'll also study your roof to see, your roof age, maybe the roof materials that are made of, as well as just how the planes lay on your roof line to ensure that you're able to maximize the arrays, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so from there, you also have the battery. And so our battery is built, like as I said, by our organization. It's controlled by an app, but what it really is designed to do is give the power back to you as the resident. From your app, you're able to use your battery as a time of use, or in a time where you need resiliency, you're able to control the battery and power your critical load. Everyone's critical load is different, so that's really based off of what you need, whether it's your refrigerator, your certain electrical outlets, your Wi-Fi. It's all up to you. Next slide. So the way I like to break it down here is I like to charge the battery. And yes, I know we're charging from top to bottom. I've heard that critique before, but not a graphic designer, so bear with me. First, I want to start with affordability. So as I mentioned, our program is designed to provide affordability to the residents. So we provide the actual unit to you, if you want to jump to the next slide, at zero upfront cost, meaning we still take ownership and provide and maintain the system for you. Like I mentioned, it's custom based off of your needs. And the only thing that you as the resident pay for, as Dean kind of pointed out before, is a power purchase agreement at 24 cents per kilowatt hour in your first year. That does have a 2.9% escalator as costs rise. So it's really designed for you, though, to forecast your utility costs over the course of 25 years. With this, there's no income requirements, no FICO score, no credit check, no lien on your property, none of that. We're really focusing on affordability so that everyone, whether you have the means to and can afford solar, or you don't have thousands of dollars to focus on electrification, you can really control where you're putting your dollars and cents here. Next slide, please. Focusing on self-sufficiency, and that's really where the battery comes into play. A lot of people I've heard recently, even in conversations today, feel like they missed the boat with residential solar based off of the new net energy metering programs, the new legislation. So with our battery, we really are trying to put the power back into the people, giving you that self-sufficiency. So we're really allowing you to generate and store your energy based in your battery, control how and when you're using and deploying that energy from your battery, putting the power back into your hands. So you're able to use that battery during those peak hours or when the grid goes down. Next slide, please. Trying to stay on schedule here. My third level of charging the battery is focusing on resiliency. Next slide, please. So if you're anything like me, you've probably lost power this year. We've got a lot of high winds. We've had a lot of storms. So the battery here is designed to, like I said, give you that peace of mind during those time when that time goes down. As I mentioned, you can back up your critical load and you can control it all within an app. So the battery really gives you that safe haven, that resiliency. Next slide. Sustainability, why we're all here. So playing a bigger footprint, as I mentioned before, this is just one way for you to reduce your load on the grid. I like to call solar as residential solar as kind of the foundation, but we can really build and grow off of this. Can you move the slides forward for me? So really, we're looking to create residential microgrids as a solution for the future. If we can all do our part to reduce the load on our aging grid, this is really what's going to allow us to move into this next kind of generation that we're facing here with electrification. And not only from a residential standpoint can you help yourself, but it helps your community as well. And finally, talking about our program, we are a trusted source. I mentioned that we operate in multiple other counties here besides Ventura County. We've actually been vetted by Santa Barbara County and San Luis Obispo County and are currently being vetted in other counties. But these municipalities have actually read through our PPA and checked off all of the boxes from installation through our end products to really ensure that our program provides a benefit to the residents, to the people. But if I'll go into my next slide here, after we've charged the battery, it's not the only solution here. There are so many companies out there that are doing similar things to what we do. And at the end of the day, we all have to do our 1% to make a difference. So if residential solar and battery and the PoweredUp Network is something that you feel like you'd like to be a part of, feel free to come find me at the big yellow tent. Otherwise, look into other organizations, look into other ways of electrifying your home if you are a renter and you don't have that ability. If we all can do our part and find our niche within sustainability, we'll all make a bigger difference. Thank you. Oh, okay. If we want to do some questions, I'm not the subject matter expert, but I will do my best to direct you if anyone has any questions. All right.
Are you guys based in LA County as well?
In where? LA County? We're actually moving into LA County, so TBD on that, but it's new. Yes.
You're in Ventura. Are you currently operating in any other county currently?
Yeah. So we're in Santa Barbara County, in San Luis Obispo County. We actually just also are working on a city by city basis as well. So certain cities will approve us to operate there. We just started in Apple Valley as of this month. Any other questions? Yes, in the front here.
What's the difference between the Tesla battery system and your battery system?
Oh gosh, that's a little above my knowledge base. I'll do my best. Really the main difference is Tesla has a battery at a certain size. Our battery has a certain size. There's technical qualifications that are above my pay grade, unfortunately, or knowledge base. So I would have to direct you to our website. It has information on our battery. If you go to electricpower.com, it has the differences of our battery and stacks it up against our competitors. Sorry, I'm not one of the tech people. In the front? Oh.
There's a question online.
Oh. Online.
Oh, okay. Any experience with neighborhood level microgrids?
Another question that is above my knowledge base. In terms of neighborhood level, I guess I would have to ask a qualifying question if they would mean within doing a community level microgrid for more of like a townhome condo scenario. That's something that we are currently working on. There's certain issues when it comes to roof ownership that come into play there, but that is something that they can email me about.
They said like a neighborhood swimming pool.
I have no idea. Sorry. I apologize. Up in the front here.
but they turned my mic off, so I have to use yours. The idea of a microgrid in practice, I mean, my house has some solar panels and a battery, so it's sort of the canonical case of a microgrid, and it does not provide enough electricity for me to be entirely off the grid, especially in cold weather like this, to run the heat pump, runs the battery down to the point where the Tesla controller says, go to Edison. So how much can even if everybody had batteries like mine and solar cells like mine, it sounds like the microgrid may not be the complete answer.
No, and I think that unfortunately, we're not really unfortunately, but looking towards the future, it's not going to be getting fully away from the grid. It's going to be how can we make the grid work with us, not just be at the mercy of it. So the microgrid is really more in those times of resiliency, when we do lose power in terms of natural disasters, all of what we've seen here with the crazy weather we've all been getting. It's really going to be about working with the grid. All right. I'm getting my 2-minute warning. Any other questions for me? I'll probably do my best to answer. All right.
Are you doing any commercial projects that include multiple, I guess, tenants within a given scope of a building?
So similarly to what I was talking before about community or neighborhood microgrids, there's a delineation of roof ownership that kind of falls into play there. So it would really be kind of project specific. We're working through some kinks on a couple of those currently. Alrighty. If there's no more questions, I'm gonna head over back to my tent, but if you can always come find me at the big yellow tent. Thank you.
And now, electric vehicles. Come forward, Brian.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Pletcher. I'm a member of the EV Advocates, which is loosely organized. Really, we have no adult supervision. Group of volunteers that put on the little EV car show out here today. So we have 9 different models, I think, for you to take a look at and talk to owners and find out what it's like to own an EV. That's really what we do. We do outreach to the community, and we're all driving EVs, and we can tell you what our experience has been driving EVs. We're not selling anything. Somebody said, "Where's your card?" And I'm like, well, I printed one up, but I didn't bring it today because I'm not selling anything. So let's go ahead and get started with our slides. So you may have heard that EVs are cheaper to own than gas counterparts. I was talking to somebody during the break that recently spent several $1,000s repairing the transmission on their car. Thank you for that anecdote. And you can save a lot of money by driving an EV, both because of the fueling costs and because of the maintenance costs. So you can see there's some stats up here that talk about the percentage less than the gas counterpart. That's taking into account the total ownership, including not paying for oil changes, which I understand cost more than they used to when I was paying for them, $60, $80, $100. You don't have those. You really have washer fluid, the stuff that you clean your window with, and a periodic maintenance about 5 years in or so where you change some of the heavier fluids. Next slide, please. So here's some of the pros of EVs. As we mentioned, lower maintenance costs. There's also a lot less fuel costs. I drive up to see my daughter in Northern California, and I drive the Ioniq 5. There's one out here that you can take a look at. It's an SUV. It's a smaller SUV, and it would cost me, except it came with 3 years of free charging, it would cost me about $20 to get there to the Bay Area. They're definitely fun to drive. They accelerate very quickly. It'll put a grin on your face. I guarantee it. There's no tailpipe emissions. In fact, you can remote start them in your garage and have them nice and toasty warm if we have one of those chilly 50-degree nights like we've had recently here. And what? That's cold for us. They also have the ability to do bidirectional power. People have been talking about microgrid and having backups at home. Today, as I was loading my car up, my neighbor came over and said, you probably don't know this, but we had a rough night last night. The power went out at 2 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know. Because they know we have a battery because our lights, they're on if everybody else's are off. So in addition to putting batteries on your house, you can also buy a car like my Hyundai Ioniq 5, which has the ability to plug devices into the car and power not a whole house, but a good portion of the important stuff, like your refrigerator. So you don't have to throw away all of those keepsakes that you have in your freezer that you really don't know what they are, but you don't want to throw them away anyway. So we've used that several times. I actually camp with an RV and pull my trailer with my electric car, and I power my trailer off my electric car. So I don't have to run a generator. I don't have, I use the battery power in the car. Campground host came by and he goes, hey, your air's running, but I don't hear your generator. This was July at Malibu Creek. It was, I think, 96 that day. And I said, wow, you noticed, thanks. So he said, well, how are you doing that? I said, I'm running it off the car. He really liked that because in a campground setting, a lot of people start up their generators to make their first cup of coffee, and that's not a good way to be a good neighbor. So some of the cons, and I take exception with some of these cons, but I left them up there. They were in the slides. Driving range. So driving range is a big concern for most people. It really doesn't amount to anything in real world use. So most of us think, I need to have 500 miles of range. You don't understand. Sometimes I wake up and I just get an inkling to go straight to Vegas and then halfway back and not stop. So I don't know how many of you do that actually, or just think that you might want to do that, but it really doesn't happen. Most of us drive, I think that the national average is about 34 miles a day. And so that means even the most worn out Nissan Leaf will carry you throughout the day without having to charge it up. And given that you only use 35 miles a day, that means that you can plug into a standard outlet. You don't need to put a big 240 volt outlet in because you're going to get about 5 miles an hour charging overnight. And that means if you sleep, most of us do, 8 hours, there's your 40 miles, you're good for the next day. Maybe you have to top off every once in a while if you do a lot of running around, but that's going to cover you for the most part. There are higher upfront costs, but there are some rebates and also some discounts available right now. Next slide, please. So this is the tax code. If you're into that, you want to look at that IRS website that was talked about earlier. You can get $7,500 off a new EV. The bad news about that is that recently changed, January 1. There's a number of cars that fell off the list and no longer get that $7,500. But car sales being kind of slow right now, most of the manufacturers have put out very familiar sounding tax savings on their cars. They usually sound like $7,500. And so even though you're not getting the tax credit, many cars have reduced the cost of their cars by that $7,500. Another option you have is to use the lease loophole, which allows you to lease a car, get that $7,500 back, and then buy the car outright from the leasing company, which is usually the manufacturer. So there are some limitations to that. It's $300,000 for joint income, and over that amount, you qualify for nothing. It's a yes or no question in terms of that. So, and as of 2024, those tax credits are theoretically available at the point of sale, which means you can walk in with no money in your pocket and say, I want to use my $7,500 tax credit as a down payment. If the dealership listened to my many calls over the last couple of months, asking them, begging them to fill out the paperwork to get the IRS approval to do that, they would get paid within 48 hours, that $7,500. And that means that's going to be less of a payment for you. You're not going to have to wait till next year when you file your taxes. It's basically cash on the hood. Unfortunately, not many of them have done that. Tesla just did it 2 days ago. So we're halfway through January. Tesla sells a lot of cars, and you would think they would get that together. Not so much. But if you call up your dealership and you ask them, I want to know that you're going to give me that money at the point of sale. I know I can apply for it. I know I can wait till April when I file taxes. I want it now. Kind of a Veruca Salt call back there. Anyway, you can ask them to do that. If you're not in a hurry, start calling your dealers now so that when you are ready to buy a car, they've got everything together and they can give you that money. Next slide. For used cars, it's a much better story right now, actually, because unlike about a year and a half ago when used cars were selling for more than their MSRP new, right now used cars are a typical deal. They're between 30 to 50% of their new cost. And the good news with an electric vehicle is there's very little to wear. Like I said, because the maintenance is so minimal, it's not like they drove them for 25,000 miles without changing the oil, because they wouldn't have had to change the oil for 25,000 miles. So you're not going to get a car in general that's going to be hurt or have been cared for. So I did some searching while I was listening to the other presenters. Oh, the criteria is a little less. It's $150,000 jointly. The EV has to be at least 2 years old, which means you're shopping for pretty recent cars. Has to be purchased from a dealer. That was part of the Inflation Reduction Act bill. I don't know why. I assume lobbyists were involved. And there is no requirement that it be made in North America. So you can buy a car made anywhere, and it qualifies as long as it's under that $25,000 peak. So again, as of January 1st, that's transferable at the point of sale. In other words, you can walk in with no down payment, and that used car dealer should have $4,000 waiting for you to make that purchase. The other thing that happened as of January 1, where you used to have the tax burden to earn that $4,000 or $7,500, you no longer have to do that. So if you're making, say, $60,000 a year and you're only paying maybe $3,500 in federal taxes, you can still get the full $7,500 on a new car or the full $4,000 on a used car, and the IRS will not come after you to get that money back if you didn't generate enough taxes. Does that make sense? It's good news. So the power companies like SC&E are also offering between $1,000 and $4,000. $1,000 is the base. There's no limit on your income there. And even at, I checked it, lower income, for the $4,000, if you are a single family earner and you make less than $74,000, you're going to qualify for the full $4,000. Is that like 4 minutes left, or? Okay. There is also a next slide, please. I did a quick search, like I said. This is for charger incentives. This is fuzzy. So somebody was saying earlier, you can search and try to figure out the answer. And because it's such a changing landscape, all of these credits, all of these rebates, it's hard to get an answer on this one. But it looks to me like to get the charger incentive was up to $1,000. It's a 30% tax credit. You have to be in a metropolitan area. All those it should be really finer print than that. All that fine print. Next slide, please. I did a quick search. I have a link that's going to be in my last slide that goes to just one of the brokers, Auto Trader, I think it is. And right now, within 100 miles of here, and my criteria is under 75,000 miles. I feel like those are sort of lightly used cars. For sale by a dealer, again, that's one of the requirements, either a plug-in hybrid or an EV. There are 540 vehicles within 100 miles of here that are at $25,000 and less. So those qualify for between $4,000 and $8,000 in rebates. There are 220 of those that are under $18,000. Now you're talking about getting almost a third off the car, right? 81 of those are Bolt EVs, which is my personal recommendation for somebody that wants to get into electric cars, because at about $12,000, after incentives, between $8,000 and $12,000, it's a lot of car. It's got a lot of tech. It's got blind spot monitoring, 360-degree camera, rear traffic alert, a lot of stuff you probably don't have if you're driving one of those Prius that never die, that are 20 years old and running fine, but you're still paying for gas. If you plug that into a standard outlet, you don't have to worry about gas, stopping at gas stations. I don't know if anybody looks forward to their trips to the gas station. I didn't. And some dealers, if you reach out to me, I'll try to find one that's got one available, and we'll give you that $4,000 on the hood. It can give you that $4,000 as your down payment. So now you're talking about making a car payment on a $8,000 car, but you're shopping $12,000 cars. Next slide. And that's it. Any questions? We had a question in front.
So can these bolts?
Bolts.
Did you say bolt or volt?
I said Bolt. So Chevy made two cars that sound really similar. Bolt with a B is the one that's all electric. Has about 250 miles range. It's that one that's really nicely outfitted.
Okay, so can your son fit in it?
My son, who is 6'6", that guy back there, he's not standing on a stool. He fits very nicely in a Bolt. In fact, he fits better in that car than just about any other car in the market. We play a game at the car show, Will Spencer Fit? And it was one of the few cars Spencer fit into in 2017, and still is one of the few cars that he fits. Yeah, he'll give a demonstration. It's a very strange car because it looks small on the outside. It's like the TARDIS, if you're familiar with Doctor Who. It looks small on the outside, but when you get in, it's really nice car. Any other questions? Anyone want help finding a used car? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you charge the Bolt on the Tesla chargers?
So you cannot charge a Bolt on a Tesla charger unless you're talking about a Tesla destination charger and you have an adapter. But in general, you can't. And the chargers most people know of that show the Tesla brand so nicely are superchargers. Those are the DC fast chargers. So there are two brands of fast chargers. There's Tesla and everybody else. And that's all going to change in about a year. And everybody's going to go to the North American Charging Standard, which is basically the Tesla plug with some minor modifications, which means all those Tesla chargers, or at least some of them, are going to open up to everyone.
Thank you for sharing the fun, the excitement of getting on a freeway ramp in an electric car where you're going the same speed as all those other people. Okay, the next talk, last talk, Linda Coburn, California e-bike incentives. It's probably even more fun.
Well, our motto is I'm definitely not someone, I can fit in any car. Yeah. There we go. How's that? Sound good? Well, welcome. I'm here to talk about California e-bike incentives. They don't exist yet, but they're coming. So that's the good news. Just real quickly, I was waiting for some slides. Don't hurt yourself. There we go. Thank you. Check, check. We'll go to slide number 2. The next one. So that's me. That was my first bike, or my second bike probably. My dad bought a bike that he thought I'd grow into, but that never happened. So my husband and I have owned the Pedego 101 electric bike shop in Westlake Village for almost 10 years now. We have, I've been a longtime cyclist my whole life. I love riding bicycles. And when I first was introduced to e-bikes, I thought that was the stupidest thing that I'd ever heard of because bicycles are for pedaling. And then I got to be around 50 years old and I decided that having a little extra help was a really good idea. My knees thanked me a lot. So we ended up getting into e-bikes right as they were starting to become like more normalized, and we've grown up with the process. We are also, I'm also a Unitarian, so yay, go Chalice. Let's go to the next slide. The incentive program is sponsored by the California Association, no, it's what's it called, CARB, the people that deal with emissions and things in California. And the idea behind incentivizing e-bikes is that people replace even just some of their car trips with bicycle trips. It will drastically improve your carbon footprint. So we want to reduce emissions, we want to replace car trips, and we want to assist low-income individuals. So the incentives definitely are geared towards low-income people, but you'd be surprised at what's considered low income nowadays. And also improve safe riding habits. So one of the components of the program is that people have to take a safety class in order to get the vouchers. We're talking about why incentivize e-bikes. E-bikes democratize bike riding. People of all kinds can ride e-bikes that might not be able to ride a regular bike. Maybe you have bad knees, maybe you're older, maybe you have an illness that doesn't let you ride very fast. Maybe you just live in a crazy hilly neighborhood and to ride to the grocery store might kill you. So an e-bike can definitely do that. It's also great for people that are low income because you can get an e-bike for, you know, about $1,200 to $3,000. You don't have to pay car registration. You don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for registration fees and insurance. So it's a way to bring transportation to people that might otherwise have to rely on, let's face it, a transportation system that is really, really poor and doesn't work for most people. People talk about, well, bikes are for health and exercise. You can get as much exercise on an e-bike as you want. You just turn the power down. You don't have to use the power all the time. You can use it some of the time or all the time. It just gives you the option to ride the bike the way you want to. And then finally, e-bikes are quiet. They're quieter than cars. They do less damage to roads than cars. There's all kinds of great reasons that they're good for the environment, in addition to the fact, of course, they don't pollute. So let's talk about the incentive program themselves. We are told that the program will be accepting applications from consumers starting or sometime in the early part of this year. We never know what that actually means. And if you want to get information on when that's actually going to happen, you can give me your email address and I will put you on our list that will tell you when we get notified that the program's actually going forward. We are a retailer for the program, so we will know ahead of the public when they're actually going to open up the application process. The application process requires that you be an 18-year-old at least resident of California. You have to have certain income qualifications, which I'll go into. And so you complete an application online. If you're approved, you get a voucher and you can go spend that voucher. So it's very simple and it puts the power in the hands of the consumer of where they want to do that. The next chart shows, if you go back one chart, the next chart shows the number, there's a slide missing. Okay, so there's a slide that shows all the income levels. It's based on the federal poverty line. That's the chart there. You can see it's a little complex. There's two different kinds of qualifications. You can either be a standard at 300% over the federal poverty level, or if you are lower at 220% over, there's an additional incentive that you get. So the less income you have, the more of a voucher you get. You can see that for a family of 4, the income requirement is about $55,000, which, you know, a lot of people are trying to live on that amount of money, so I'm being one of them. Now the next slide. So there are 3 different voucher options. The lowest one is $1,000. That's the minimum voucher, and that you would get if you are at 300% of the federal poverty level. An additional $250 goes to people that are at that 225% of the FPL, or that live in a disadvantaged or low-income community. And those are defined by the state, and it's really complicated, but there's charts online. You can look that up. Sure, Westlake Village and Thousand Oaks are not considered disadvantaged communities. And then there's an additional $750 incentive available if you purchase a cargo bike or an adaptive bike. And I'll show you on the next slide. Well, actually, that's a couple slides, but I'll tell you a little bit about what those differences are. So the next slide talks about which e-bikes qualify. One of the things, like with the car incentive program, they're focusing on companies that have an actual physical location in the state of California. So an online retailer that doesn't have any service center here, doesn't have any ability for people to try the bikes, is not eligible to be a retailer under the program. They also have to provide ongoing local service and support. The bikes must come with a 1-year warranty at least. They must have running lights on the front and back that are integrated into the bike's power, so you're not relying on external bike lights. They have to become fully assembled, and that's mainly to make sure that people get a bike that's safe. We've seen a lot of people get bikes over the internet and they have to build them themselves, and they come in with the fork on backward and the bolt's not tightened, and it's just an unsafe situation. So they're really trying to make it so that the bikes are safe and good for everybody, including the riders. So on the next slide, you'll see the 3 different types of bicycles. So there's standard e-bikes, which have to be class 1, 2, or 3. I'm not going to get into what that means, but there's all kinds of information on what makes those things. But it's basically a bike that goes 20 miles an hour and it has pedals and is electric. It doesn't have a certain motor size. It can have a throttle, but they do have to have operable pedals, and you have to be able to power them under pedal as well as throttle. And then the additional incentive for a cargo bike covers bikes that are a certain length and weight and will carry a certain amount of stuff. And again, those are details that aren't super important right now. And as far as the adaptive bikes go, the adaptive component means you have to prove that you need an adaptive bike. You can't just buy a trike because you like it. You have to prove that there's a reason that you need that bike, that you have some kind of disability or reason that you can't ride a normal 2-wheeled bike. And that's an additional $750 incentive. So that's pretty much all the information. If you go to the next slide, it's got the actual email address of the program. There is no place to sign up yet. You can't even sign up to get more information. So again, if you want to provide me with your email address, I'll add you to our interest list. And as soon as we get information about when the program is actually going to go forward, we want to actually, give you a heads up that that's coming soon. I think one of the other things, I seem to have missed something here. Let me just go back through here. It's my fault, nobody else's. Yeah, I don't remember what it is now. Senior moment. So that's all I have for you. You're welcome to come down to our store. We have all kinds of e-bikes available for test riding, so you could see what the different terms are, what they mean. We are going to be an authorized retailer, and we'd love to help you out with getting an e-bike into your life. Any questions? No questions? All right. Thank you very much. Oh.
Retroactive or just for new bike sales?
Right.
Just new bike sales?
The vouchers are not retroactive. So you have to get approved, get the voucher, and then purchase the bike. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sounds like fun. Okay, this concludes our series of electrifying talks for the conference. I got 2 laughs out of that one today. How'd you all like the conference? This was our first attempt. There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of figuring out how do we make the insurance company be happy with what we're doing here. We're going to do more of these in the future, probably in other places in the county, since this was such a success anyway. Thank you all for coming.